The Durrani patrol ship drifted through the quiet edge of the Coron Nebula, following its usual route. It was a slow and boring assignment, the kind that junior crews disliked because nothing ever happened there. The nebula was calm, the region unimportant, and most ships avoided it because of the strange dust clouds that made sensors behave oddly. For the Durrani, it was simply another day of routine, but this time, something changed. The first sign appeared on the long-range scanner of the Durrani bridge. A faint signal pulsed in the fog of the nebula, slow and steady like a heartbeat lost in the dark. The signal was unusual. It did not match any known Durrani vessel, or any ship from a friendly world. The officer watching the scanner stared at the signal for a long moment before calling for his captain. Captain Lyra stepped onto the bridge with a calm but curious expression. She was a steady leader, known for caution and clear thinking. She leaned over the officer's shoulder and studied the strange reading. A single ship. Faint engine signature. Almost no movement. She asked her officer for confirmation, and he confirmed the readings twice. The ship ahead was real. Drifting. Silent. The Durrani patrol slowly approached the unknown vessel. As they moved closer, more details became clear. The ship's structure was human. The Durrani recognized the general shape from old encounters, though this one seemed different. It was smaller than the largest human cruisers, but still built in the same style. Sharp lines, wide hull, and strong armor. The name of the ship was not visible. No lights were active. No signals were being sent. It floated quietly, like a dark shadow. Captain Lyra wondered if it was damaged. Perhaps hit by a storm. Perhaps lost after a battle. Humans were strange, bold, and unpredictable. But they rarely left their ships behind. Something felt wrong. The Durrani sent out a soft hail toward the drifting vessel. No answer. They tried again. Still nothing. The silence felt heavier than before. Inside the Durrani bridge, officers exchanged uneasy looks. It was rare for humans to ignore a hail. Even their military ships usually gave at least a short response. Captain Lyra ordered a Level 2 scan to gather more information. Her officers activated deeper sensors and aimed them at the empty warship. As the beam reached the human vessel, something strange happened. The scan signals bounced back in confusing patterns. Instead of clear readings, the scanners returned, shifting numbers and twisted shapes. Data streams flickered across the Durrani screens, like waves moving in opposite directions. One officer thought the equipment was malfunctioning. He restarted the scanner twice, but the readings stayed the same. Captain Lyra frowned. She was not the type to panic, but even she felt a touch of concern. She asked her science officer what the readings meant. He could not answer at first. He kept running new calculations, trying different angles, and adjusting the frequency. Finally, he spoke softly, as if unsure of his own voice. The human ship was not dead. It was not empty. Something inside it was active, yet it was not active in a normal mechanical way. Instead, the energy patterns inside the ship looked almost organic, like something alive was beating in rhythm with the ship's systems. The science officer said the internal heat signatures were moving, changing shape, reacting to the scan. Captain Lyra stared at him, thinking he must be mistaken. Ships did not react like that. Machines did not shift their heat patterns to avoid a scan. Only living things did that. But there it was, on every display. The human ship was responding. As confusion spread among the Durrani crew, they did not know that inside the silent ship, humans were watching them back. Within the horizon, Commander Ryan Cole stood inside the dimly lit command room. There was no panic on his face, only patience. He had expected a patrol ship to find them sooner or later. He listened to the quiet hum of the living hull around him, feeling the gentle pulse under his feet. The ship felt like it was breathing, slow and steady, like a calm giant asleep. Lieutenant Olivia Grant stood beside him, her fingers lightly touching the curved surface of a control panel. The surface responded to her touch with a faint ripple of light, like water bending around her hand. She could feel the ship's reaction to the Durrani scan. It was not angry yet, but it was curious. Watching the alien ship in return, Engineer Jack Hall walked in from the rear corridor, wiping his hands on a cloth. He looked tired, but alert. He asked if the Durrani had scanned them yet. Ryan nodded. Jack sighed softly. He knew what would happen next. Ryan looked at both of them with a thoughtful expression. He told them to stay calm and let the ship sense their emotions. The living hull responded strongly to fear, aggression, or stress. If the crew panicked, the ship could interpret that as danger and react violently without waiting for orders. Olivia asked if they should reveal themselves. Ryan shook his head. He wanted the Durrani to see only what lay on the surface. He did not want them to know the full truth. Not yet. He reminded them that the Horizon was once part of an old human project. A project created during the darkest days of the last Great War. When humanity thought they would not survive, they built ships that could learn, adapt, and grow stronger every time they were threatened. These ships were alive in their own strange way. They could heal themselves, reshape their internal structure, and defend their crew even without direct commands. The Living Hull project was later hidden away because it was too dangerous. The ships were too aggressive, too protective, too ready to respond to any threat with overwhelming force. Only a few still existed, sealed away from the rest of humanity. The Horizon was one of them. Now it waited in silence, with a crew who understood its nature but hoped no one else ever would. While Ryan and his crew whispered inside the darkened ship, the Durrani continued scanning. Each new reading brought more confusion. They detected moving structures inside the human vessel, as if corridors were shifting location. They saw energy streams that twisted like arteries, not wires. They saw a central glow that pulsed like a living heart. Captain Lyra grew uneasy. She felt the weight of something wrong, something unnatural. She asked if the ship could be carrying a biological weapon. The science officer said he did not know. He only knew that whatever was inside, it reacted to every scan they sent. She decided to pull back the scan and reduce power. Maybe the human vessel was damaged and overly sensitive. Maybe they were scanning too hard. But as she turned to issue the order, another officer called out with anxiety in his voice. The human ship had just moved. Not a large movement, only a small shift, but enough to show it was not drifting helplessly. Its engines, silent before, showed a faint heat signature. The hull changed shape slightly, as if adjusting itself to face the Durrani. The patrol crew tensed. Captain Lyra gave a calm order to maintain distance and avoid any hostile actions. She wanted no misunderstanding. She hoped the humans would reveal themselves and explain their silence. Inside the Horizon, Ryan felt the Durrani pulling back their scans. He exhaled quietly. The ship calmed down, its internal pulse returning to a slower rhythm. Olivia said the ship almost seemed disappointed, like it enjoyed the attention. Jack laughed nervously. Ryan told them the next few minutes were important. They had to remain quiet and let the Durrani decide whether to approach or retreat. If they pushed too hard, the Durrani might panic, and if the Durrani panicked, the living hull might sense danger. On the Durrani side, Captain Lyra tried again to hail the human vessel. She used softer tones, neutral signals, polite requests. Still, no answer. The silence felt heavy, almost intentional. She wondered if the humans were ignoring them, or if something worse was happening inside. She had heard stories about human bravery, human stubbornness, and human unpredictability. She had heard that they fought with a fire no other species could match. She never believed most of the stories, but the silent ship before her made her doubt her old beliefs. She asked the science officer what he thought the shifting organic patterns meant. He hesitated before saying they might be looking at a form of engineered life. Perhaps humans had created a living support system for their warships. Perhaps they had built machines that acted like organisms. Captain Lyra felt a chill at that thought. She wondered what kind of threat humans faced in their past that would push them to create such strange and powerful things. The patrol ship held its position, watching the silent human vessel. The nebula around them drifted like soft clouds, glowing lightly in shades of green and blue. The scene almost looked peaceful. But everyone on both ships felt the tension growing. Inside the horizon, the living hull sensed that tension. Its internal surfaces rippled faintly, shifting like muscles preparing for movement. Ryan placed his hand on the central interface to soothe it. He whispered calm thoughts, letting the ship feel his steady heartbeat. Olivia watched the glowing patterns across the walls slowly settle. She asked Ryan if he thought the Durrani would board them. He doubted it. The Durrani were careful and respected danger. They would never step into a ship they did not understand. Jack asked what would happen if the Durrani called for reinforcements. Ryan said that was exactly what he expected, and exactly what he feared. The Durrani crew continued to study the readings, unaware that the ship they scanned could sense their concern, unaware that its living hull listened to their every move, unaware that the humans inside were hoping the Durrani would stop before something much worse woke up. And in the quiet void of the nebula, with two ships staring at each other across a gulf of fear and curiosity, the first seeds of misunderstanding were planted. The Durrani thought they were investigating a silent, damaged ship. The humans knew they were sitting inside a sleeping giant, and the giant was beginning to stir. The Durrani patrol ship kept its careful distance from the silent human vessel. The nebula around them drifted slowly like gentle waves, but nothing about the moment felt calm. Every officer on the Durrani bridge watched their screens with growing unease, unable to understand what their scanners were showing. The data changed almost every second, as if the human ship was shifting inside. Captain Lyra stood at the center of the bridge, her hands behind her back, her voice steady, even though she felt tension inside. She asked her science officer for a full analysis. He worked as fast as he could, adjusting the scanning frequency again and again. But the strange readings only grew stranger. Energy flowed inside the human ship in patterns that looked natural, not mechanical. Heat signatures rose and fell like breathing. Parts of the ship seemed to pulse or respond to changes in the environment. No Durrani officer had ever seen a machine behave like that. Captain Lyra rubbed her chin slowly. She asked if it could be a rescue ship carrying survivors. Maybe the internal movement they saw came from people walking inside. But her officer shook his head and said the energy patterns were too large, too organized, and too fluid. No group of humans could move with that kind of coordination. Meanwhile, inside the horizon, Ryan felt the Durrani scans probing again. They were slower and weaker than before, but the ship still reacted to them. The living hull shifted its inner layers gently, like a creature adjusting its position to stay comfortable. Small ripples ran through the walls, leaving trails of faint light. Olivia watched the movements with a mix of wonder and caution. She whispered that the ship was getting restless. Ryan nodded. He knew the hull could sense emotion and intent, even from outside. Though not in the same way it sensed its own crew. It could feel the Durrani fear. It could feel the tension, and tension always woke it up more. Jack entered the command room with a worried look. He said he checked the outer hull and found that the living tissue had begun reinforcing itself. Armored plates grew thicker. The ship was preparing for conflict even though no one ordered it to. Ryan placed his hand on the living interface, hoping to calm the ship. He imagined steady oceans, quiet mountains, anything peaceful. The ship responded slowly, the pulsing light softening. Olivia and Jack watched him carefully. They knew only a few humans in the galaxy had the training to soothe a ship like this. Most people would panic the moment they felt the hull breathe. Jack asked if the Durrani understood what they were scanning. Ryan said he doubted it. No alien species knew what the living hull truly was. Humanity had hidden the project long ago, afraid it would change how the galaxy saw them, afraid it would bring fear instead of cooperation. As the ship relaxed under Ryan's touch, the Durrani scanners returned new readings to their bridge. Captain Lyra leaned closer, as her screens displayed something even more disturbing. A section of the ship's interior had just grown a new layer of armor. It happened right in front of their sensors, as if the ship was alive and repairing itself in real time. She asked for confirmation. Her officer confirmed it twice. The Durrani crew whispered quietly among themselves. Some wondered if humans had merged biological organisms with their war machines. Some feared it was a living weapon. Some thought it might be a creature pretending to be a ship. Captain Lyra did not want panic to spread. She raised her voice gently and reminded her officers that humans were known for unusual inventions. They were bold thinkers. They took risks no one else dared to take. Maybe this strange living system was only an experiment. Maybe it was not meant to be hostile. She told them to stay calm and observe, but the crew could not calm their nerves. The ship before them did not behave like a machine. It behaved like something aware. In the horizon, Ryan felt the ship's attention turn sharply. He frowned and asked Olivia to check the external situation. She read the newest scans coming in from the hull. Her eyes widened. She told Ryan that the Durrani were scanning deeper now, nearly touching the core. Ryan inhaled sharply. The core was the most sensitive part of the ship. It was the living heart created during the darkest days of human history. It was meant to respond to threats, to protect itself, to change shape and unleash defenses the moment it believed danger was close. Jack said they should shut down the core's visibility. Ryan shook his head. They could not hide it. The living hull did not obey simple orders like that. It sensed danger on its own. The Durrani scan grew stronger for a moment, trying to read the core's energy pattern. As soon as the beam touched it, the core reacted instantly. A wave of bright energy pulsed across the ship, making the inner walls tremble like a creature startled from sleep. Olivia flinched as the light crawled across the room. Ryan steadied himself and placed both hands on the interface. He whispered calm thoughts again, trying to soothe the core before it woke fully. But the core was already alert. The ship wanted to defend itself. On the Durrani bridge, lights flashed in alarm. The science officer shouted that a sudden surge of power had erupted inside the human ship. He warned that the energy wave showed signs of active response, not passive reaction. Captain Lyra felt her throat tighten. She asked if they had accidentally triggered a weapon. The officer said he did not know. But the ship's internal energy was increasing rapidly. Some Durrani crew members stepped back from their consoles in fear. Captain Lyra kept her voice steady. She ordered them to reduce scan strength and move the ship slightly farther away. She hoped this would ease the tension. The Durrani ship drifted back slowly, engines humming softly. The crew hoped the human vessel would calm down. Inside the horizon, the living hull felt the Durrani retreat. Its pulse slowed slightly, but the core still glowed brightly. Ryan breathed slowly, keeping his hands on the interface. He felt the ship's heartbeat echo through his arms. It was frightened. It was defensive. It did not trust the Durrani. Olivia watched Ryan carefully. She asked if the ship understood the Durrani were only curious. Ryan said, the living hull did not think in simple words or ideas. It reacted to intention and emotion. Curiosity felt too similar to danger. They had pushed too far. Jack paced nervously and asked what would happen next. Ryan did not answer. He could not lie to them. He did not know. On the Durrani side, confusion deepened. The newest readings suggested the human ship was forming something inside its core chamber. Something dense, powerful, and increasingly warm. The officers debated whether it was a reactor waking up or a biological defense mechanism forming. Captain Lyra listened carefully to each theory. She hated making guesses without facts. She asked her science officer if there was any sign of life besides the mechanical systems. He stared at his screen for a long time before answering. He told her that energy patterns inside the ship resembled both machinery and biology. The ship might not just contain life. The ship might be alive itself. The bridge fell silent. Outside, the human vessel stayed still, but the Durrani could feel the shift in the air. It was like being near a sleeping animal that had just opened one eye. Captain Lara gave the order to stop all scans. She hoped stopping the pressure would calm whatever was inside. The officers followed quickly, shutting down every beam, every pulse, every sensor aimed at the horizon. Inside the horizon, Ryan felt the change immediately. The ship relaxed slightly, its inner layers settling. The glowing patterns on the walls dimmed. The pulse grew softer. Ryan exhaled in relief. The ship was calming down. Jack walked closer, asking if the Durrani would leave now. Ryan said it depended on what they believed they saw. The Durrani could either be too frightened to stay or too curious to leave. They all knew which choice was more likely. Alien species rarely turned away from something they did not understand. As if confirming his thought, a soft vibration moved through the hull. The Durrani were still there, watching, thinking, deciding. Captain Lyra studied the silent human ship for several minutes. She could not walk away. She needed to understand what they had found. She needed to know if it was dangerous or simply misunderstood. She told her officers to prepare a gentle external scan, one that would not touch the core or internal systems. Something soft enough to avoid waking the strange energy inside. The officer hesitated but followed the order. A light scan swept across the outer hull, slow and harmless. Inside the horizon, the living hull sensed the soft scan. It twitched once but did not rise in alarm. Ryan whispered, "Thanks," under his breath. Olivia watched the outer readings and said the Durrani were still trying to understand. She wondered aloud if they would call for reinforcements. Ryan said they probably would. This situation was beyond a patrol ship's ability. Jack asked if humanity should reveal what the horizon truly was. Ryan said revealing the truth might cause more fear. The galaxy might see humans as creators of living weapons. He said the Durrani had to see only enough to respect the ship, not enough to fear it. As time passed, both sides continued studying each other. The nebula around them glowed softly in green and blue, making the scene look peaceful, even though every person involved felt tightly wound. The Durrani tried to understand. The humans tried to stay calm. The ship listened to everything. The living hull grew quieter, but its core remained awake. It sensed tension in the air, the same way a creature senses a storm coming. And deep inside, beneath layers of living metal, something old and powerful began to stir again. Curious about the world outside, the Durrani still believed they were simply studying a strange and damaged ship. The humans knew the truth. The horizon was awake now. And even though Ryan tried to calm it, the ship was not going back to sleep. The nebula around the two ships glowed quietly, as if nothing unusual was happening. But every person on both crews felt the weight of the moment. Something in the silent human vessel had awakened. And the Durrani patrol ship could sense the change, even without the scanners. The horizon no longer felt like a drifting object. It felt like a presence. Captain Lyra stood on her bridge, watching the motionless warship with careful eyes. She had seen strange things during her years in space, but never something that made her heart feel heavy like this. The ship seemed to watch them, even though it did not move or speak. She wondered if the humans inside knew how much fear the sight created. She asked her science officer for the latest readings. He hesitated before speaking, saying the internal energy of the human ship was steady but powerful. The core pulsed like a living thing. The outer hull had grown more layers of protective material, and there was a soft vibration coming from the ship, too faint to measure but strong enough to feel. Captain Lyra asked if the ship was preparing for battle. The officer said he could not confirm that, but the ship seemed alert, awake, and ready for something. Meanwhile, inside the horizon, Ryan felt the same tension. He stood near the main interface, keeping his hand on the living surface so the ship could sense his calm thoughts. He knew the hull listened to him. It reacted to his emotions. But even with his steady voice, it still felt the fear from outside. Olivia stood near the front window, watching the Durrani vessel across the dark space. She whispered that the patrol ship looked nervous. She said she could almost imagine their officers pacing, unsure of what to do next. Jack nodded slowly, saying he would feel the same if he were in their place. Ryan sighed softly. He knew they could not remain silent forever. The Durrani would eventually call for help, or worse, try to board the ship. The horizon would not allow that. The living hull would treat it as an attack. Jack asked if they should reveal themselves and speak. Ryan thought carefully. He feared communication would make the Durrani even more afraid, but staying silent had its own risks. The Durrani could misunderstand everything and call for a fleet. The ship suddenly pulsed beneath them, sending a faint tremor through the floor. Olivia steadied herself and asked what it meant. Ryan closed his eyes and listened to the pulse. He said the ship sensed more danger. Something nearby was changing. Outside, the Durrani received a new signal. Captain Lyra's communication officer announced that a second Durrani ship had arrived in the region. A larger one. They had responded to the patrol's earlier report and had come to investigate. Captain Lyra felt a twist in her stomach. A second ship meant more eyes, more fear, more guesses. She wondered if the human vessel would see this as a threat. The large Durrani ship positioned itself behind the patrol vessel, forming a protective line. They sent a message asking for a full update. Captain Lyra hesitated before replying. She did not want to alarm them, but she also did not want to hide the truth. She explained the strange readings, the living energy, the shifting hull, and the reaction to the scans. She said the ship might be more than a machine. The officers on the larger ship fell silent on the channel. Finally, they said they would conduct their own scan, a stronger one. Captain Lyra immediately warned them not to. She said the human vessel reacted badly to strong scans. But the other officers were too curious, too determined to understand what they faced. They believed more information would bring clarity. They did not understand that too much information would bring danger. Ryan felt the change even before the first scan reached them. The ship tensed beneath his feet. The walls pulsed brighter. The hull tightened its grip on the outer metal. Olivia grabbed the controls as the lights flickered inside. Jack cursed under his breath. Ryan whispered for the ship to stay calm. But the scan touched the core again. Stronger than before. The core reacted instantly, sending a shockwave of energy through the entire vessel. The Durrani ships felt the burst. Alarms rang across both bridges. Officers shouted warnings. Captain Lyra ordered her team to pull back, but the larger Durrani ship continued their scan for a few seconds longer. Those few seconds were enough. The horizon shifted from stillness to motion. The living hull stretched, as if the ship itself took a deep breath. The outer plates melted and reformed, creating sharper edges and thicker armor. The engines powered on with a low, deep hum that vibrated across the nebula. The Durrani officers stared in fear as the silent warship came to life. The horizon slowly turned its bow toward the two Durrani ships. Not aggressively, but with purpose. It was no longer pretending to be asleep. Inside, Ryan told Olivia to send a warning message. Her hands trembled slightly, but she nodded. She opened a channel, and for the first time since they arrived, the horizon spoke. Her voice reached both Durrani ships, steady but firm. She said they should stop scanning. She said the ship was reacting defensively. She said they did not want conflict. Her message brought silence across both Durrani bridges. Captain Lyra exhaled slowly. She was relieved to hear a human voice, but also frightened by the truth in it. The ship reacted on its own. That meant the humans were not fully in control. The commanders of the larger Durrani ship debated in confusion. Some officers wanted to back away. Some wanted to test the ship further. Some wanted to leave the nebula entirely. Fear and curiosity pulled them in different directions. Captain Lyra spoke first. She told them this was not something to push. She told them humanity was known for strange and powerful creations. She told them provoking a ship that behaved like a living creature could be a mistake they would regret. Her words were strong enough to make the larger ship pause. Inside the horizon, Ryan felt the ship calming slightly. It was watching, waiting for danger. Jack asked if they should leave the nebula before things escalated further. Ryan shook his head. If they left now, the Durrani might think they were running or preparing for attack. They needed to show they came in peace, but without appearing weak. Olivia asked what they should do. Ryan looked at the living interface. The ship pulsed gently under his hand. He understood what it wanted. It wanted to show strength, not aggression. He ordered the horizon to rise slowly and reveal itself fully, but without charging weapons. The hull obeyed. The Durrani watched in awe as the human ship showed its true form, glowing softly with living energy. Captain Lyra stared at the sight. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She felt her breath catch in her throat. She realized they had found something no Durrani had ever seen before. She sent a message to the horizon. She spoke calmly, saying they meant no harm. She said they only wanted to understand. She asked if the humans were in control of their ship. Ryan answered, this time. He said they were in control, as long as no one tried to harm them. He explained that the ship reacted to fear and strong scans. He said the ship was not a weapon of war, but a guardian built during a desperate time. Captain Lyra listened carefully. She asked why humanity would create something so powerful. Ryan hesitated, then explained. He said there was a time when humanity was close to destruction. They built living warships to protect themselves when nothing else could, but later, when the danger passed, they hid these ships away because they feared the galaxy would misunderstand them. The Durrani crew listened in silence. Captain Lyra finally said they understood and would not push further. She asked if the horizon needed assistance. Ryan shook his head even though she could not see him. He said they were fine. He said they only wished to pass through the nebula safely. Captain Lyra relayed the message to the larger Durrani ship. After a long silence, they agreed to let the humans go. They turned their ship slightly to clear the path. Inside the horizon, the living hull felt the threat fading. Its pulse softened. Its armor relaxed. The glow around the ship dimmed to a calm level. Ryan whispered thanks into the interface. Olivia smiled with relief. Jack sat down heavily, wiping sweat from his brow. The moment had been intense, stressful, and dangerous. But they had avoided conflict. The horizon slowly drifted forward, gliding between the two Durrani ships. The Durrani watched silently as the living warship passed them, moving with quiet grace. No weapons were raised. No aggression showed. The ship looked powerful enough to destroy them, yet gentle enough to leave peacefully. Captain Lyra recorded everything in her report. She wrote that the human ship reacted to scans, but avoided violence. She wrote that the humans tried to calm their ship. She wrote that they found something both frightening and admirable. When she finished the report, she added one final line that her officers would remember for years. We scanned a human warship and saw a living creature made of metal and hope. If this is what humanity hides, then we must pray we never see what they unleash when they choose to fight. The horizon left the nebula quietly, disappearing into the darkness of open space. The Durrani watched until it was gone. They never forgot what they had seen, and they never looked at humanity the same way again.